Here's what Jason Bottrell said to New Jersey when they came a-callin' for Jared McCann. He's not leaving. He's not leaving. He's not freaking leaving! Probably.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Seattle hockey fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we bring you your favorite team, the Seattle Kraken, every single day. Erica L. Ayala here, and when I am not doing my best Leonardo DiCaprio imitations, I, of course, am your host here of Locked On Kraken, an accredited media member of the Milano Cortina cohort that will be covering the women's and men's ice hockey tournament. Also the founder of Black Rosie Media, where we empower Black women and melanated creators in sports media. And I know that makes some of you mad because I do read the comments. Jokes aside, I don't know if that's what Jason Bottrell said with regard to the rumors that Jared McCann could be moved to the New Jersey Devils. But what we do know is that Jared McCann has been a part of trade rumors. He has been associated with the New Jersey Devils. If you go listen to Trey Matthews over at Locked On Devils, he's talked about this, I think, in December and even a month ago. We'll talk about what he said a little bit about Jared McCann. There's obviously interest. And as Trey said, as many people, including yours truly, have said, the Seattle Kraken seem stuck. They seem stagnant, and there's not a lot of indication that the roster as constructed heading into season 5 for the Seattle Kraken is really going to move the needle. And Trey said something, again, almost a month ago, which I've been telling you since the beginning of this show. If you look at the Pacific Division and how they have performed in the years in the years prior to the Seattle Kraken entering the National Hockey League, there was only a matter of time before teams, I guess, other than San Jose, would be able to benefit from not finishing very high in the NHL. High draft picks, whether they were team tank or not. You know how I feel about that if you're an everydayer or an OGer. That makes us part of your daily destination. And you know, you're one of our everydayers. We'll get into that. But I do think the Pacific Division, as a whole, they've got some high draft picks, and the Seattle Kraken, for a lot of different reasons, are not able to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak, here. And so, you know, Trey Matthews felt that he's, again, our host of Locked On Devils here on the Locked On NHL channel. He felt that Jared McCann could be a great ad. And something that he said when he talked about this most recently was maybe it's Dawson Mercer and a second-round pick. Of course, he talked about playing hardball if the Kraken wanted a first-rounder. Well, reports as of, about a week ago are that the Kraken just said no outright. He's not leaving. He's not freaking leaving. If you know that movie, put it in the chat. Leonardo DiCaprio. What an intense actor. Anyway, from the Devils' perspective, obviously a lot of people interested in what Jared McCann can do. He's been our top goal scorer before. He continues to be one of our top scorers overall when it comes to the Seattle Kraken. He's, as Trey said, as I've said, we've been talking about this top 100 that we're going to do as part of the Locked On NHL channel. He's got to be, if there's an opportunity, it's Joey Daccord as our goaltender, and it's Jared McCann as a forward that have a chance to crack the top 100. But the sentiment across the league is that this is a Seattle Kraken team that has been underperforming. And even the best players on an underperforming team, what is the value added for the Seattle Kraken if we do start kind of trading off some of these guys who, as I did, hopefully you liked our mini series, Where Are They Now from the expansion draft. McCann is one of those guys, and he's one of those guys who's played, obviously, more games than a lot of other folks that we took in the expansion draft, but not all of them took to the Kraken like McCann. Literally none of them with regard to their performance. Obviously, Adam Larson has the most games played overall. But again, if you haven't checked out that 3-part series, go check it out. You can watch it on YouTube. Also, like, I recorded that super late at night and I messed up your boy. That's Callie Yarncroak, man. I couldn't believe I did that. I was like, well, it's out there now. Anyway, mea culpa. I made a mistake. What can you say? But Jared McCann, the Kraken aren't willing to trade him, at least not in the deal that the Devils offered. Making a deal with the devil. What movie is that from? I mean, well, it's just a phrase overall. I think I'm thinking of Batman, like the Batman I grew up with. But anyway, Dance with the Devil in the Pale Moonlight or something like that. Anyway, I think that although whatever deal was or whatever offer was made by New Jersey, clearly Jason was like, yeah, I can refuse that. Sorry, wise guys. Listen, I'm from the East Coast. You know what I mean? Anyway, he's like, sorry, not doing it. And a second round pick. I mean, we've talked about this. A few of y'all have commented because this is an ongoing topic, and I think it's going to be through the trade deadline. If we get to the offseason and a player like McCann is still with the Kraken, it's going to be a conversation because the Seattle Kraken have made some pretty bold moves, specifically opting to yet again hire a new head coach. And when are we going to see this perennial playoff team, quote, as soon as possible? I know everydayers, you're like, will she ever let this go? No, I will not. This organization, multiple times for multiple reasons, has felt like, from an outside observer, we're reading the tea leaves, we're watching what spaghetti's going to stick on the wall, and this organization doesn't always look like they either have a plan or that they're committed to sticking to the plan, or maybe the plan that they have just isn't any good. Is it a combination of all of the things? Are they too conservative? Do they spend too much money? Is it all of the above? It's yes, and I don't know what's going on sometimes. And how much longer can we hang on to valuable assets like McCann? We talked about Vince Dunn. We got another trade rumor that we'll talk about coming up regarding Vince Dunn. But, when will we get beyond the tipping point to that there's not much value because of how this team overall is performing? And I think there are a lot of things that come into these trades, including what teams are up against their salary cap. So, maybe the Kraken are trying to play that game. I do not get paid nearly enough to make those kinds of decisions. So I don't know what we're looking at here, but he said he's not going. Jared McCann will be with the Seattle Kraken, at least for the foreseeable future. What do you think about the Kraken rejecting any offer? Dawson Mercer, again, is someone that Trey Matthews over at Locked On Devils talked about like a month ago. If you look at Mercer's numbers last year, 82 games played, 19 goals, 17 assists for 36 points. I don't know. For McCann, 36 points, and a second round pick. Okay, so we're just going to continue to get our draft picks, but we have guys like our 7-7 guys that are taking up spots that we could get a diamond in the rough or something in the second round, even our first rounders. And now I'm talking with my hands because I'm from the East Coast. I got a little flavor to me. Whether we're talking about Jared McCann, whether we're talking about Vince Dunn, Adam Larson, Jamie Alexiak, when are we going to get to the point where the Seattle Kraken, have kind of waited too long to move assets that could be valuable to teams that are looking to compete, looking to be contenders, etc. I think I kind of hope we find out sooner rather than later. So, but again, apparently Jason Botterill, with whatever offer was made to New Jersey, said he's not going. Let me know what you think about that. And coming up next on Locked On Kraken, we're going to talk about another trade rumor, because as my colleague over at Locked On Devils has often said, it's still silly season. That plus a chance to meet me while I'm in Seattle for over a month ahead of the 5th overall season for the Seattle Kraken. We'll talk about that and so much more on Locked On Kraken. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. We know the NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet $5, and if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So you can do this in a number of ways. There's a lot of different ways to bet. You can do player props. You can do futures bets, which we've talked about before on the show, same game parlays, or maybe you're jumping in live as the action unfolds. Either way, it's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place that first $5 bet. Thanks, as always, Seattle hockey fans, for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. Erica L. Ayala here. Whether you are our first listen of the day, a midday listen, your late night listen, either way, we thank you so much for the everydayers, the OGers. And again, I look forward to reconnecting with some, meeting for the first time others. But I will be in Seattle, and we'll talk about that. And also listen to some or read some of your comments over the last few videos. But another trade rumor, again involving Vince Dunn, but possibly sending him to my hometown of New York, where if you listen to our mini series, you know that Carson Soucy now resides. We talked about heavy.com. And they make another blockbuster trade proposition here. And this time they want Vince Dunn to go to New Jersey for Carson Soucy, a conditional 2028 second round pick that becomes a 27 first round pick if the Rangers make the Eastern Conference Finals in 26 or 27. That's right. There's a lot of conditions, but also it would send hockey defenseman Drew Fortescue, who is a Rangers prospect. And if you look at Fortescue, we got a guy from Boston College, coming from Boston College, 20 years old. He is, 6'2", 176 pounds, considered a defensive defenseman, but also a two-way defenseman. Okay. At least that's what Elite Prospects has. Says he has a knack for finding teammates with short touch plays. Appears on the end of the boards where he carries for quick passes along the boards, and breakouts where he turns pass receptions and steals into clean zone exits. I like that. Medium range feeds that slice through the forecheck. So getting into the offensive zone seems to be one of his strong suits. Has played with USA U20 on the U18 national team, part of the national team development program. Originally he's from Pearl River, New York. That's kind of in the neck of the woods where I grew up and went to school. North definitely of me. But he played in the World Juniors. Uh, you know, he's an impressive young prospect. I have said before that I'd like us to have more defensemen in the prospect pool, but you know, people saying that his skills can translate. So, I I don't know that Carson Soucy needs to come back to Seattle. Fortescue sounds interesting. I like the idea of having more prospects. Um, I think that again, if this team isn't going to be competitive, is it time to make some of these deals, strike while the iron is hot, get ahead of maybe the field? Fortescue did, after being drafted, he of course decided to continue on at Boston College instead of playing probably for the Wolfpack, right, in the AHL. So he'll have more NCAA experience, which I kind of like. There's a handful of guys that have been able to make it happen. Fortescue, 11 points in 36 games this past season for Boston College. He says, right now, I'm just focused on getting bigger and stronger. My plan is to continue to work and then I'll be ready the following year. Talk to the front office a little bit and just kind of thinking that that's what's best for his development. So, I wonder. I don't know enough about this Fortescue guy. I like the idea, just from what I'm reading, but he's 90th pick overall for the Rangers. So you got a prospect, the prospect of another pick. This hypothetical talks about the potential first round pick depending on how the Rangers do with Dunn in the lineup. So again, Carson Soucy at times was a little bit more of a liability, but that being said, this is what I will say about this. That being said, if this is a team where we're trying to find our way out of the messy middle in a multi-year kind of retool, rebuild, hybrid, whatever we want to call it, to get to a perennial playoff team as soon as possible, having someone with some grit and sandpaper like Carson Soucy is not the worst thing. That's why we liked Soucy. And is it time to go backwards, 2 steps forward, 2 steps? I don't remember how the phrase goes. Is it time to take a few steps back to then accelerate forward? Kind of like you pull the arrow, or you pull, so I think that could maybe work. I just don't know right now what this Kraken team is really thinking about. I get the sense that they want to see these guys. There's going to be a rookie camp, and we'll talk about plans that we have upcoming. We've got plans on how to cover rookie camp. I'm going to be at training camp alongside Joe Dabney, who's been helping with the show behind the scenes. So we got some good content plans for you there. I just get the sense that this Kraken team still wants to see what they have kind of cooking, bubbling over, and see it together. I worry that there might be a time period where we wait too long. I don't want us to sign deals that get us locked into the wrong kind of veteran. And then we have also all these prospects that then have nowhere to go. I mean, we've been talking about what happens with Berkeley Catton, what happens with Yanni Newman. We got to see how Ty Cartier performs. How is Riker Evans going to perform? I know a lot of you are very frustrated with how the Seattle Kraken has handled Shane Wright. I mean, and on and on and on we go. Not to mention, where is Jager Furcus at this point in time? Who are the guys that can really start making their way up? Because the prospect pool is one of the things that we get high marks for. But if you're just letting them sit in the pool and you don't give them enough time, then what are we doing? Well, what are we doing? And that is the question. What is this Seattle Kraken team doing? Again, Vince Dunn, Jared McCann, Alexiak, Larson. I think Schwartz and Eberle are players that I think a lot of you, that at least the ones who comment on YouTube, you're okay to part ways with. We got rid of, Andre Burakovsky. If you're an everydayer, the guy just was hurt too much for us to see an impact there. We're sticking with Philip Grubauer. So what are the options here? I don't know that I can judge this trade perspective, this possibility, without first having an understanding of what this team is actually trying. I mean, I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Do you have a better understanding of what this Kraken team is trying to do? I just want to come to some YouTube comments, and we'll talk about some of them a little bit later on the show as well. But, we continue to get comments, and I think I know that I really like what some of y'all are saying. So Jenna commented, it'd have to be a blockbuster trade to get me on board with getting rid of Dunner. Now, this was another trade option with Toronto, but I don't get it. But the stats and eye test agree that we're not as good without him in the lineup by far. She goes on to talk about Montour and how it helped. But, again, saying Dunn brings something intangible to the lineup. No, Vince Dunn is kind of seeing the guys that are wearing the the reverse retros, or the Winter Classic jerseys post Winter Classic, which you got to be a Kraken fan to even understand that. And unfortunately, it's painful. I also cover the New York Liberty, and the white jerseys for the New York Liberty, I don't know. I guess they got to wear them a certain number of time. Speaking of reverse retro or third jersey option, we're going to get that this week. I don't know that it can be worse than those reverse retros. I never liked how they looked. We did not play well, as Jenna is saying here. But Jenna also goes on to say, and let Jenna and I know, I don't know about everybody else, but I'm starting to get sick of taking L's over the past 2 seasons. Real sick of it. I told Jenna I was going to read some of these comments on the show. Again, we were talking about another Vince Dunn trade proposal, but it seems appropriate. Ricky AZ 8640, good topic regarding Vince Dunn. Again, still appropriate. Considering a Dunn trade is probably something coming down the road when this is the key part. Thank you for this, Ricky. When this team decides when the real competitive window opens. So I'm not the only one who doesn't have like a working understanding of what that is. Dunn should bring back an A-level prospect, preferably 2 of them. This option, I point it in my notebook, is over here. And then I also have the window over here. Is that enough, Ricky? Let me, and everybody else, Fortescue, and what is it? Because it was like there was a lot of hypotheticals here. a conditional 28 second round pick that could become a 27 first round pick if the Rangers make the Eastern Conference Finals in 2026 or 2027. So kind of hedging the bets that Vince Dunn can push the needle for the Rangers. Do you like that deal, Ricky, and everybody else? I don't know. It's tough. There's some gambling, so to speak, that the Kraken have to do. I think we all agree. That something's got to move. There's got to be movement here for the Seattle Kraken. We can't hold the line. That has not worked. And I don't know why you get rid of another head coach and your general manager if you're just going to hold the line that they established, right? I don't know, Kraken fans. I don't know. But what I do know is I will be in Seattle soon, traveling mercies for me. And, we got Jordan coming out there as well. But I plan to be in Seattle. Let's talk about opportunities to link up while I'm in Seattle and a few more comments as we continue on today's episode of Locked on Kraken. Can you tell I'm passionate about this topic? Thanks as always for making Locked on Kraken a part of your daily destination, your first listen of the day, midday listen, late night listen. Either way, we love it. Erica L. Ayala, again, accredited media member. Oh, hold on. Where am I? This is my, you can't really see all of it. This is my media pass from Beijing. I don't actually know where my Paris one is. Now that I think about it, I gotta find that. I don't know where my Paris media pass is, but I'm sure it's around somewhere. Either way, very excited to be accredited for another Olympics. Jordan, who I mentioned, will be with me in Milano Cortina, and we are already planning some things that we're gonna kind of experiment with when it comes to training camp and the preseason that we want to do, not just for the Olympics, the women's and men's tournament, but also for those who know, I host the Women's Hockey Report every Saturday with Rachel Donner. We have some of the graphics that we're also going to use for the Women's Hockey Report. I think it's going to be a great way to keep things organized, to keep you updated, and we're really, really excited to to experiment, like I said, with some of those things. And this is where you come in. Jordan and I are going to be in Seattle. We're going to be together in Seattle. I'll be there for basically a month through the Vegas game, the second home game. But Jordan's going to be with me there for a little bit at the start of full training camp. We have rookie camp. I'll be there for rookie camp, a little bit of overlap in rookie camp. And we want to connect with you. We have some really great interviews we're trying to coordinate both for women's hockey and men's hockey because PWHL Seattle, we don't have a schedule yet, but hopefully we'll get that soon. I've been talking to PWHL Seattle. We should get to speak to, the coach, Coach O'Rourke soon. We have some fun things. So we want you to come say hi. I know a lot of you, when you see me around Kraken Community Iceplex, you say hi. Please do say hi and tell me your name because I know you know my name because I say it every episode. It's on the screen if you're watching. It's, if you're listening to audio, you can find my name, but I don't always know your names, or maybe I just know you as your YouTube handle. So please introduce yourself, especially when I'm with Jordan. We are going to have a good time. And we're going to hopefully be able to, especially when the Seattle Kraken are on the road, we don't have broadcast details yet, but just going by the last handful of seasons, we're expecting that some of those preseason games will be made available. And we want to connect. I go to Rough and Tumble a lot when I'm covering women's basketball. Jen over at Rough and Tumble has always been good to me and what I try to do to just continue to amplify Seattle sports. So probably going to be at Rough and Tumble. Island Soul Rum Bar is another place that I like to go, and I would love to, if anyone's in the Columbia City area, meet over there. So, keep an eye on those away preseason games because it's going to be an opportunity for us to meet up across the Seattle area, and we'll let you know a little bit more about that. But we will definitely be at Kraken Community Iceplex. We will be there for a few preseason games. I will be there for all of the preseason games. Jordan and I will overlap a little bit for preseason games at Climate Pledge Arena. I get to see the Sue Bird statue for the first time. I'm so excited. Oof, the Seattle Storm, they got a lot of work to do. Only 2 home games left, and they really just couldn't hang on to that game against LA. So we'll see what happens. I would love to be saying I'm covering the Seattle Storm as they try to make a bid for the postseason and not the offseason, but we'll see. I want to get to just a few more comments before we close out the show because y'all who comment and who listen just in general are so awesome. So Striatic is definitely an everydayer, and thank you. It's not just Striatic, I know, but thank you for those who listen and comment. But Striatic, this is in response to where are the Seattle Kraken's expansion draft picks now, part 1. And we talked about Vanacek versus Drieger. Or Vanacek, I guess what Striatic is saying is versus Grubauer, who signed as a free agent. The comment, there's a world where Grubauer doesn't sign in Seattle, and Vanacek and Drieger is the inaugural tandem. I think the extra cap space might have helped. And I commented, there's really no telling. Also, remember, we talked about this when the show started, and some of this analysis did not age well. A lot of people really liked the Kraken goalie tandem going into the inaugural season. Chris Drieger decimated with injuries, including, at World Championships, where he was basically out for an entire season. And I said this in the comments on YouTube, Striatic. I want to go over the inaugural roster and like how that team performed a little bit more, especially because we had a comment, weeks ago, maybe over a month ago now, that was like, I think what Jason and company are trying to do is to mimic the season 2 roster. So we're going to go back to every day next week, starting, I believe Monday is September 8th, right? So we'll be on 5 days a week starting next week. We're still in the off season for a little bit longer, but I want to start doing deep dives into season by season because I feel like I'm misremembering when exactly things started falling apart with Chris Drieger. Definitely season 2 because Martin Jones, the hero of season 2 and the best season the Kraken have ever had. That's why we got Martin Jones. So, but everything kind of blends together, especially because some of the seasons have been, rinse, wash, repeat when it comes to the Kraken. But again, I want to revisit this, but thank you, Striatic, for that comment and making me think a little bit about, what was really going on with Driegs, Was that a missed opportunity? Was it just kind of bad luck overall? Then he couldn't make the roster. That's how we get Joey. But again, we're going to go through all of this because I really think it's fascinating to talk about some of this. George, I know we've talked about this with regard to Catton and Yanni going either way. I just wanted to come back to this because, George and I kind of agree that the Kraken have a, quote, interesting problem is what George typed. They're not a fun team to watch. And Jenna was saying that earlier, right? And they get little national attention. I've talked about that before. I'm very concerned. I mean, I will not share the insides of the Locked On NHL chat, but I feel like there was a little shade thrown to the Kraken. But I just don't think we get the hype. Man, we used to have a Pacific Division show, and they would talk about the Kraken and almost never have me on the show. I'm like, hello, McFly, hello, I'm right here. I'm right here. Good grief. Anyway, yeah, I feel like I've said this before. I know sometimes a few of you will comment about the Metropolitans, as in the New York Metropolitans, and I feel like I said this early on. If you've been with me since the beginning, I said I hope I don't mush the Kraken. That is a Bronx Tale reference. A mush is someone who, no matter what, anything that they commit to, sports wise, mush. I mean, I grew up a Liberty fan, and it wasn't until almost my 10th season covering the New York Liberty as a media member now that I got to see them win a championship. So I guess what I'm saying is, I hope I didn't mush your hockey team. I hope I didn't mush your hockey team. And if I did, forgive me, but also stick with me. We got to stick with the Kraken. Right now, they're not, again, I'm a Metropolitans fan. I'm used to rooting for a team that's kind of, the butt of every joke when it comes to Major League Baseball, not to mention the city of New York. Oh, 24, whatever, how many, 24 rings. What do I say? What do I say? What do I say? What can I possibly say? So I get it. And it's not fun. It's not fun. They're not a fun team to watch. But what George is saying and what I think I'm leaning into, what's funny is that I call the Kraken a conservative team, and then I feel like some of yous have called me out for also being maybe a little conservative. I think that money conservative, while then also doing 2 7-7 deals, boggles my mind. Philip Grubauer contract. I don't know that I have to explain that. There's some things that drive me wild. The specific thing with Shane Wright, I just think that there's a little bit of care given to his demeanor as a human and not just a hockey player. And I respect that. But I appreciate that you're calling me out. I'm saying, I want the youth movement. And then I'm like, no, just make sure Shane Wright is okay. I get it. But George is saying here, it's not only to bring in the youth to bring some more excitement, but also this team has to look to the youths because we have to start thinking about the future. And he's talking about not the now, all caps, by the way, if you look at the comment, but about the future. And he says, finally, in closing with this comment from a few days ago, Catton has little left to learn in Spokane. And that's probably right. So again, the question becomes, the Kraken signed some of these more veteran forwards on. Who gets the raw end? The short, there's a lot of different phrases that I'm trying to punch into this. Who gets the raw deal? Who gets the short end of the stick? Who is the one or the ones that the Kraken let go? Because I hear what you're saying about Chandler Stevenson, and if it was just about stats, I would agree with you. However, I think that the organization has proven that it's not always just about stats, and that maybe is a failing of the organization. I feel like I've gone on a little bit of a tangent, a little bit of a rant, as I am wont to do. But here's the thing. Is this organization ready for the youth movement? The answer, at least as of September 2nd, 2025, I, Erica L. Ayala, do not know. I'm not sure that the organization knows, but I hope that the way training camp and preseason is set up is that and rookie camp is that they get all of the answers that they need to make the decisions required to make this team more watchable, more relevant, and more successful as soon as possible. I'm doing air quotes if you're listening on audio. Be kind to yourselves. Be kind to one another. The world is a wild and crazy place. I'm very honored and blessed that I get to talk hockey. I get to talk sports on a daily basis. And I am a human living in the world in all of the ways that I identify. And it can be heavy. I can only imagine that some other people feel that as well. So I don't want you to think that while I'm talking hockey, I'm separated completely from that. So it's important, and I mean it. I'm learning how to prioritize what helps me be a more grounded human, so that I can be a better person and honestly a better host for all of you. So if that message resonates with you, I hope you receive it. I hope you reflect on it. Until next episode, let's hold fast, let's stay true, and loud and proud we say, let's go Kraken, not to mention Firebirds, Mavericks, and PWHL Seattle. I will talk to you on the next episode, or you will hear me talk on the next episode. Peace out, everybody.